So now we are starting with the plenary session 3, From Farm to Future, how AI is redefining market access for farmers and FPOs. This session is co-curated in partnership with Digital Green Trust. And before I invite the guests on the stage, may I request for the video to be played on how AI is transforming agriculture for millions of farmers in India.
हमने जो है फार्मर चाइल्ड पार्टनर ऐप का उपयोग करना शुरू किया और इससे हमने देखा कि काफी चीजें हमारी आसान हो गई।
ಟೋಟಲ್ ನಾವು ರೈತೋತ್ಪಾದಕ ಕಂಪನಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಾಕ್ದಾಗ 400 ಶೇರ್ ಹೋಲ್ಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಇವಾಗ 700 ಶೇರ್ ಹೋಲ್ಡರ್ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗಿದ್ವಿ.
ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರು ಅರೌಂಡ್ 80 ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಈಗ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ 1 crore ವರೆಗೂ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ.
అంటే ఎకరాకు 84,000 రూపాయలు గతంలో వచ్చేది ఇప్పుడు అన్నమాట 105,000 రూపాయలు రావడం.
From the moderator, Mr. Aniruddha Brahmachari, Director Programs, Digital Green India. May I request you to please join us on stage. A very warm welcome to you. We now invite on stage the esteemed panelists for this session. I welcome Ms. Aparna Bijapurkar, Managing Director and Partner, Boston Consulting Group. I warmly welcome Mr. Sudarshan Suchi, Chief Development Officer, Reliance Foundation. And next I welcome on stage Mr. Siddharth Chaturvedi, Senior Program Officer, Agriculture Development, Gates Foundation. A very warm welcome to all of you. I now hand over the session to Mr. Aniruddha Brahmachari. May I request you to set the tone of the session and take it forward.
Thank you, everybody, and good morning to all of you. And this panel doesn't need any introduction, so we can just dive into the topic and also make sure that we do interact a lot and keep it conversational, much more. Hear and learn and talk about it, right? AI and digital is also impacting our lives in different ways, and it's also impacting, agriculture and how things are happening over there in the agriculture field with the farmers. We have new innovations happening over there. We have new beginnings happening over there. And also, a lot of data-driven decision-making is also happening or being influenced by AI or digital experiences as we are having in different states of the country. What is the potential of it? Potential of it is for the farmers, it's about growth of the farmers, what crops they are choosing to grow, and how they are prospering. Although we do see a potential of AI and digital, we are also aware about how equitable it would be, what are the things to be aware of or what are careful or guardrails which we can put. And lastly, also about the last mile farmer, the smallholder farmer India, which is a huge number, what really happens in their lives if AI and all digital interventions do come in and things are decided by led by or decided by or they have access to AI and digital. So I'm going to open this session up and talk to Aparna first, basically, to understand, because Aparna works with the Boston Consulting Group, and she has been with various studies or commissions with the government and working with the government on influencing the policies. So can I request, based on those experiences, Aparna, which you have, what is the biggest bottlenecks the farmers or the FPOs are facing in terms of connecting with the markets, and how can AI-based tools or digital tools meaningfully unblock these constraints?
Thanks for that question. And I think, I think every one of us in this room probably works even more deeply, I think, at the ground, with farmers and FPOs. And I think, if I were to just summarize what are some of the bottlenecks from a market point of view, right? I think it starts with perhaps even just recognition and understanding of what is the right product, the right variety, and the right standard to grow, for the market, right? And very often we grow and then think about the market, but I think, the other way is where value starts, right? And I think across the post-harvest value chain, several issues. I think one is quality management, the other is traceability. I think there's logistics and fulfillment, just from a scale point of view. I think, price understanding, the ability to be able to pick the right market, manage for rejection. So I think a lot of those issues, and, won't spend time on the issues, but I think where technology can increasingly play a role, at least in our experiences, 4 or 5 areas, right? I think one is you all work very deeply on getting the right data to farmers. And I think, from an AI point of view, I think data and intelligence around whether it is pricing or whether it is kind of market understanding of variety standards, all of that. I think the second, which we're seeing, which is quite interesting, is, we looked a lot at organizations working with FPOs trying to get onto platforms like ONDC, right? And I think the capability that you need to be able to get onto e-commerce, whether it is cataloging, whether it is, being able to kind of put your brand out there. I think Gen AI now has much faster solutions, with the right human interface to be able to build your website, build your catalog, do some of that. I think there's also spectral solutions that we're seeing, whether it is pest management or quality traceability, that I think you can put in places which have lower infrastructure availability, but at least a digital backbone. But, in our experience, all of these solutions are available, but the biggest challenge, at least we did a lot of work with FPOs and entrepreneurs on the post-harvest side, is that there are 6 or 7 kinds of risk that we see, right? There's the risk of aggregating at the right quantity, the right quality, being able to manage logistics, do fulfillment, handle the payment. And I think that's where, technology plus the right financial layer really needs to come in to kind of bridge that gap, right? And I think, at least in my view and experience, we're not seeing fast enough solutions to manage for that risk, I think. And if we can put that in place, I think that can perhaps accelerate some of these other solutions and their adoption as well.
True. Thanks, Aparna. You talked about the fast enough solutions and acceleration, right? And coming to Sudarshan, you lead a large-scale programs across the state, various states in the country, and a lot of villages are covered under your programming, and agriculture being one of the biggest portfolio. So what is this happening around digital, and is it fast enough as Aparna is talking about, or is it available at a scale good enough for the people to adopt? And what has been your experiences around it, working in from Madhya Pradesh to all across the country? Yeah.
Yeah. So first quick answer is no and no, of course. But in a larger context, I want to answer it in 2 dimensions.
Sure, go ahead.
The first dimension is very specific to what you asked. I think there is a level at which technology or AI is already coming in terms of the market context.
Sure.
But I think it falls way short of looking at the whole value chain. It doesn't suddenly start at the aggregation level. There's a whole context to it. So unless we look at it holistically, I think we sub-optimize the potential of AI, and there's a lot of work to be done in that. Having said that, you didn't ask, but I want to touch on a much larger context, and I first want to give an illustration of a different subject. A typical water harvesting structure in a, let's say, 150 household or 1,500 hectare village, it costs close to 1 crore rupees, and with all the machinery, it can be built in 3 months. The institution required to sustain it costs hardly a small percentage of it, few lakh, and it may take any time to help bring the institution which will run the water harvesting structure. So you may solve the water problem with a structure, and yet it may remain because your institution, which could take a year, 2 years or something to build, understand, own and manage, and we may not have the patience for it. Now, what does that have to do with AI? So I look at the artificial intelligence or generative AI as a huge opportunity to aggregate global knowledge and bring it to a rural community. So you really become global. But there are preceding contexts. How familiar are people with technology, digital and AI? How much ease of access they have? And who are doing the gatekeeping, because this is about a basket of choices and how do people make their choices. So on one end, it promises to democratize information. On other end, it could be the new iniquity and a new form of oppression, depending on how we do. So I think sometimes, I mean, we, with our best intentions here, find a solution even before we have really ourselves fully understood all perspectives of the problem or the lived reality of people. I think the challenge, the opportunity with AI, no doubt. The challenge is about how much of a hurry we are in to offload this on a set of people once we have decided something. You have the funds, you have the technology, you just need the right people to download it on ये आपके लिए दवाई है, कड़वा है but काम करेगा. So I think that's what we need to be wary about. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Sudarshan, you touched upon one issue is about the potential and the sub-optimization if we don't look at it in a holistic manner. And then also you talked about, the patient capital needed to actually make sure, as you're talking about that experience of the watershed, but that this also needs a patient capital over a period of time to make sure the farmers or the smallholder farmers particularly be able to understand it, grab, sort of get their hands dirty with it, and then start using it to their profitability, right?
I'd like to take another minute of yours because
Sure, go ahead.
I think the other part which, and this I'm saying not with hard data but more with empirical observation, the luxury, so the people who are carrying or the bridge between at the technology end and community, the frontline people, hardly there is any investment in their capacity enhancement around this topic. I mean, the people whom you are betting on to deliver it and get another set of people to adapt, just look at, any organization's budgets, plans, the transfer of skill, capacity enhancement. It is minuscule. It is not in proportion to the enormity of the context. So,
completely agree. And from our own experience, we have to struggle with our tech team to understand what agriculture, what this Kharif Rabi, why are you struggling about that? So we do have to talk about that. All right, coming to Siddharth, we talked about, patient capital, and you do support a lot of these initiatives at the grassroots level in various forms and manner across various states in India. So what are you learning as you advance this technology push, and what is from your experience, basically what drives this adoption and what drives maybe in crop planning, irrigation or market access, and what are the innovations, in a couple of innovations which comes to your mind, which really thinks that, there is something spark over there to make things work at the grassroots level with the smallholder farmers.
Yeah, thanks a lot. First of all, thanks a lot for having me on this panel with two very, very esteemed colleagues, very senior colleagues. I think one overarching comment which I've learned from DG itself is that technology only solves part of the problem. And to recognize that is very, very important. And to figure the role of AI in solving for a problem, because I think experts like Nandan have spoken about it, that it's not a solve for all. And we are in that bubble in which we think that AI will solve for everything. So I think that is one call out. In our limited understanding, what we are trying to solve for is first identify the problem we are solving for. So, and what's the AI use case? So agriculture is a use case for the larger AI, mandate that Gates Foundation is working on. And as I said, when it comes to adoption, one gap that I see even in our own investments is we are jumping from centralized AI services directly to the farmer, and we are ignoring everyone in the middle. We are ignoring extension workers, agri input dealers, arthias who have been there forever. And solutions are being created for that one farmer who's not asking for advisory. He's asking for markets. So it's a bit convoluted. At the same time, the dichotomy is that Steve Jobs has taught us that the customer doesn't know what he wants. In this case, the customer won't even pay. So how do you sustain those solutions? So coming back in terms of what has worked for us, what has worked for us in the limited period that AI has suddenly burst on the scene. One is obviously farmer.chat that we are working with you. Then what we are trying to work with the government and with international partners is contextualizing AI for specific use cases of states, of commodities, and language plays a very big role in that because we're talking of advisory which is going out and also improving the language model itself. So the agri LLM as we call it. So improving that itself is a big piece. Then in terms of what the farmer is facing, Maharashtra government recently launched the Mahavistar. That was in July. And one of the key use cases of Mahavistar was the availability of warehouses. So warehouses doesn't sit with the agri ministry. It sits with a different ministry. But they've brought it as a use case for agriculture, for the farmers, which is helping them get markets. At the same time, they are also providing them with real-time mandi prices. Now, the data has been there, but the access, what sir was talking, the ease of access, that is what is possibly changing the game. And I cannot name one or two innovations because all of these are built on, a similar layer. So the innovation lies beneath that layer. I think the innovation, what we are doing in our states or with the government is more on identifying a very fundamental problem and then bringing various actors to solve for it, including AI. I'll just stop there.
Okay. Thanks, Siddharth. You did bring to about the point of having extension workers, the connection, how the connection from the centralized services to the direct to the farmer, but you need people in the between, and you talked about, those are critical roles in the between till to reach the farmers. Fantastic. At this point, with your all permissions, can I flip the situation and ask the audience if they have a statement or a question over here to ask to the panel, because we would also want to know because there are a lot of practitioners in the room, and the room is filled with every practitioner over here. Can we get a couple of mics out there and to ask a couple of questions, questions or statements which we can talk and answer and debate about? There's a hand? Yeah, perfect. Please, can we get some mic over there? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sai Krishna. I'm heading National Skills Foundation of India. My question to the panel is, AI applications, even when it comes to market access, appears very rosy. Okay, while the farmer is already so much confused with so many agtech companies coming for the data, the agtech companies found a solution of working with the farmers and farmer not being paying for the services of crop advisory, whatever, is through the selling of the data that they get from the farmers. Now, the question is, with so much of rush of pushing, including AI to the farmer space, but the data doesn't appear to be so much mature. While Department of Agriculture has come out with the data stack, but agtechs accessing the data of the public space or the farmer, where farmers decisions for the farmers using the data that is available is not so much mature at this point of time. So how do you see AI with so much of machine learning and multiple languages that it has? How can we offer a meaningful, relevant and contextual decision scenario or decision point for the farmers to take when we ourselves don't have so much of data of that particular context?
So thanks. I think therein, according to me, lies the flaw in the whole approach. There's an assumption that we have given the prerogative of making solutions for somebody else and provide them. I think it's like most of us, I certainly am from a generation that when I do Google search, normally the first choice I assume is the truthful choice or the best choice. You learn over a period that it might be the least best or the worst. Now, we are saying that, look, here is the farmer and I'm going to prescribe this to him. And I'm going to also pick up from what Siddharth was mentioning about the extension people and capability. And maybe this should help us put a protocol for ourselves around AI as to what is the real purpose. I am proposing, according to me, every adult individual has the right to make informed, objective choices, including the small, marginal, remote farmers. As of today, that luxury of that choice doesn't exist. First, information is missing. Second is, if there is any information, it's limited to the knowledge of people like us or somebody whom we have nominated. Right now, it is one extension worker with one choice, one capability. I think if our whole approach is to bring a basket of choices and around it an ability to filter and discern in the farmer, I think we would have actually invested well. The moment we kind of abrogate that prerogative to ourselves, that I will be prescriptive, I have found the choice, this is the best choice, this is the best market, this is the best price, this is what I know it, so you know it. I think probably we would have sadly missed the opportunity that AI and technology is providing. It's powerful both extremes.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question, right? And I would say probably an unsolved one, which is why you're asking. And I tend to really, I think, echo what Sudarshan said about this idea of choice, right? Two or three things. I mean, we've seen now some state governments, coming in and basically saying that we will facilitate this choice, right? And I think it comes with a very important question to say who bears the risk. And sorry, I keep using the word risk, but I think, it comes back to, that question, which is if you, let's say, create, and, one of the states that we're observing is basically saying, I will create a digital interface, an assisted digital interface, where if I'm a farmer, I can go and say that, I want to sell, right? And then three players at the other end will kind of offer quotes, and, that's where choice comes in. But I think it comes back to the question of saying, who builds that platform layer, and is the farmer seeing this as therefore government endorsed or not, right? I think these are questions we don't have the answer to, but I do think that over time, the hope is that with enough peer endorsement, some of these things may kind of evolve, in the direction that other sectors we've seen evolution in. But in the interim, who backstops that risk, I think is a really important question. We don't know the answer. Just, one more thing that I want to kind of, mention on this, at least that we're seeing, and is this idea of these solutions being put out in context, right? I mean, where we've seen any reasonable scale is a certain crop cluster where a set of players come together and kind of co-create and perfect together, perhaps with that community and with the farmers. The data then gets validated over a period of time, and maybe that's the way also some of this will evolve in a more deliberate manner, to be able to solve, at least at small scale, some of the problems you're talking about, and then we'll learn how to do it at, capital, market scale, or whatever you want to call it.
Correct. Both Aparna and Sudarshan, when you talked about, the real purpose and the objective choices in the hands of people, it also comes down to designing stage, how you are designing this app, feature, or the tool. Are the women being part of the design process or not? Does she have a say, or the smallholder farmer have a say? It is that what makes the difference, or the app or the tool stand out. And that's what has been our experience also, because that feedback loop to the tool and the process is very important. And that needs a continuous updation and, reaffirming that, all right, these are the objective principles, we need to consult again every time. Right, coming, because I know there is a bit of shortage of time over here, but just the last one question, short answer, and then I will want to pick on your brains for one round more if I am able to push it. So, AI in agriculture cannot scale through isolated efforts, be it you need a cross-sector sort of people to come together, be it government, non-government, private, civil society. And those are essentials to you. And any thoughts around that, how this cross-culture, cross-sector functioning can improve for agriculture? Because I know it's happening in other sectors also now quite. How can we sort of stimulate that? Any thoughts around it? Siddharth, we can start.
I think we are slightly early in the journey. So I think one caution on that. The enabling environment, obviously, there are a lot of elements, and coming back to Aparna, risk mitigation is one of them. The second thing is, I think that we have to be careful of what we are advising and what we are providing as information.
True.
Third thing is that from an enabling environment standpoint, there are two major challenges. One is data sharing internally, and the other is we have been talking about an agri data exchange, but that has not really materialized.
Correct.
So while the startups do want data from the government free of cost, there is no sharing of data by the private sector with the government to enrich those data sets, and there is no precedence to that either.
Yeah.
The last piece, which is something we are also struggling with, is the compute capacity and benchmarking. So what the gentleman said earlier, there is a lot of noise in the sector.
Yeah.
There are a lot of claims in the sector, and at this moment it's very hard to figure what the benchmarks are and what is going to give me a return on my high cost that AI is currently coming with.
Sure. Sudarshan, quick one sentence, because the bells are going, ringing.
One word answer is accountability. I think whatever we dish out, we need to own, be accountable and be answerable for it, and not simply leave it to somebody else. I want to mention in passing one name, Professor Rajendra Behera, Orissa University of Agriculture Technology. Not many may have heard. What's so special about him? He's called Professor of Practice. So this guy is academically just 10th part, but his whole experience, expertise and everything has got that university to recognize and formally put him in that position. The absence of that kind of a thing in our whole work, where we are very structured in one layer, is robbing us out of the wisdom that's already there in communities. So too many words, but I think we need to harvest that.
Aparna, quick one sentence.
Yeah, I think there are, a few good examples now, I think, of where we're seeing this ecosystem come together, whether it's UP on DSR, whether it's, Chili's and AP. So I think just learning from there, it may be a bit idealistic, but it would be nice if we can figure out this framework of a multi-stakeholder compact. And I think that we have enough proof points of where they've come together. I think the big question is who initiates and originates that, right? So far, we've seen it be a lot of development sector actors. I would love for it to be the market as well.
Okay. So overall, if I ask you, Siddharth, one word, how happy you are, inspired you are with this new change which is happening around, in one word, top of the mind, sort of saying that with AI and agriculture, as you look at markets and everything, the whole sector changing fast, basically.
Yeah, I'm carefully optimistic.
That's a good way to say it. Sudarshan, one word. Yeah.
I think when you opened the thing for questions, and the lack of responses is something we must be aware of, that this is what happens even in communities. That if people are not used to opening up, they get tongue-tied. They don't make the best of that opportunity.
I think cautiously optimistic, like Siddharth.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, everybody over here, and fantastic, engaging discussions. They are around here. Maybe you can also catch up with them. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
We express our thanks to the esteemed moderator and the panelists of this session for bringing forth this discussion between AI and digital innovations in bridging last mile gaps between farmers, FPOs, and markets. Thank you for this very engaging discussion.